All right, I'm going to do a little bit of my introductions, and hopefully any stragglers come on a little late, just miss me talking and not our guest speaker. But this is one of many sessions we've been doing in our legal consideration series with the wonderful Janelle. She is an attorney, and she will be talking a little bit more about how to hire online legal counsel and how to be confident in that. I think that's something a lot of small businesses struggle with. So as a reminder to everyone, all of our webinars are set up not as a Zoom meeting. They are a Zoom webinar, which means you cannot accidentally unmute yourself. You cannot turn your video on, but you can interact with us, and we encourage you to do so throughout the presentation. If you have questions, put them in the Q&A. If you have comments or just want to say hi or let me know how you're doing, you're more than welcome to do that. You can put that in the chat, but I do want to make sure the questions end up in the Q&A so they don't get lost. A little bit about myself and the SBDC before we get started here. My name is Sarah. I work at the Temple University Small Business Development Center, and I'm looking at the attendees on the line, and I think many of you have seen us before or seen our sessions before, but if you're absolutely brand new, welcome. And the Temple University Small Business Development Center is part of a nationally accredited network. So there are actually over 1,000 SBDCs in the United States. There are 16 in Pennsylvania alone, since Pennsylvania is a big state. And we're located in Philadelphia, so we focus on the Philadelphia region as well as Eastern Montgomery and Lower Bucks County. You will all be getting a copy of Janelle's PowerPoint and a link to the recording and a follow-up email that goes out within about 24 to 48 hours. We do ask you to be patient with that. I do see some people putting information in the chat, so yes, hello, feel free to share your information with each other. I know Zoom fatigue is real, so thank you all for being with us today. So without further ado, let's have Janelle go ahead and get started.
Thanks so much, Sarah. I am going to share my screen if I do this properly. Let's see. Okay, you guys are seeing this?
I'm muted. Yes, we can see it.
All right, so that. Okay, so just a quick little bio about myself. And I am very glad you guys are all on the call today. I am excited to meet any new small business owner. I am fascinated every day by the types of businesses that are out there. You know, anything from service to selling certain goods it's just fascinating to me just how many different types of business exist out there. So kudos to you for being one of our small business survivors. So a little bit about myself. I've been helping small businesses now under the name of Peyton Law for a little over 5 years. I've been an attorney for much longer than that. I found my niche because I was a small business owner first. So I ran a construction company prior to going out on my own as an attorney. And since then, I've been growing my firm, and we help only small and medium-sized businesses, so only privately held companies. So we know the ins and outs of the contracts you deal with, the entity and corporate documents that you need to deal with, as well as some of the intellectual property, the copyrights, trademarks, trade secrets, and licenses, and then also buying and selling and retiring from your business. So we have quite a few people after COVID who are moving on to the next phase in their career or life or new business. So we have a lot of that going on, I've been seeing right now. But this will all be included in that email that you get from Sarah later on. So if you have any questions about my background or want to know a little bit more, feel free to reach out. I will be available to you after. So let's get started. This webinar is called Hire Counsel, How to Hire Counsel Online with Confidence. And what we are looking to accomplish is to figure out how, if maybe you have counsel, but they're not quite working for you. Maybe you had counsel, but they retired or moved on to a different firm or a different part of the country, which happens a lot. Or you've never had to hire counsel before. So this is something new to you. I want to help you figure out where to find them, how to go through the consultation, and then how to assess which one is right for you. So we will jump right in. Finding potential candidates is the first thing we're going to talk about. And the way that I like to run my webinars, to make it a little bit more interactive, is to ask you a question first to see kind of where you're at and get you thinking. So the question for this topic is, the most important thing to consider when hiring an attorney is their hourly billable rate. What do you think? True or false? I'll give you a second to answer to yourself before I give you the answer. And feel free to put it in the chat too. I know Sarah is watching that for me.
Yep, we have someone said false. They think it's false.
So I will go ahead and say, you're right. And obviously these questions are not too hard. They're just to get you thinking. So, but why did I choose this question? There are a couple things that we want you to think about as we move through this webinar. And obviously the hourly billable rate is a consideration. We're not going to pretend that it's not, but it's only one consideration. So if you see here, I have a couple things listed out. And this plays into how we're going to find the potential candidates. So the three things, and we'll go into this a little bit more later, but the three things you're looking at is cost, So if you are a very small business and you are on a budget, don't call the big players in the local city, like in Philly, because they're going to charge $800, $1,000 an hour. So don't bother, but don't put much more thought into it than that. The other two things we're going to be looking for is their competence and subject matter expertise. So you don't want to call a divorce attorney if you're looking for small business help. You don't want to call a Securities and Exchange Commission attorney if you're looking for small business help. So we want to know that they work in the field that you need your help in. Otherwise, they're not going to be very useful to you, and they're probably going out of their comfort zone anyway to help you out. The other piece of this is communication. So we want to be able to evaluate how they communicate and how often they communicate. Because if your attorney and you cannot communicate well, especially at the small business level, you're going to have problems. And if you need to make decisions, as most small businesses do, on a very quick timeline, you need this contract done in 2 weeks. You need to hire this employee like yesterday. Working with a larger firm or someone who's already very busy, they're not going to be able to get back to you in a time frame that you need them to. So another big piece of this is the communication. So we're going to keep these in the back of our mind. We'll talk about them a little bit more. But where do you find potential attorneys to hire or firms to hire? And you'll see I have a little list up here. Referrals from others in your industry. That is my top #1 place to look for a referral, if you can. So for example, if you're in the health industry and you, I don't know, you sell health products or you are a trainer or something like that, ask other people in your business who they use, because it's likely that their attorney is comfortable in their industry and knows the level of business that they're at. So I'm going to say, and they're going to be honest with you, they're not going to give you a referral to attorney if they hate their attorney, or if their attorney never gets back to them, or if they charge them like ridiculous amounts of money to do small tasks. They're not going to give you the referral. So if you can find a referral from someone in your industry, hands down, that's probably the best way to go. That's the best place to start. Then I have referrals from colleagues. So this just kind of expands that a little bit. If you're in a networking group, maybe there's an attorney there or someone who uses an attorney that they like. Maybe it's outside your industry, but small business attorneys often can help in a lot of different industries. So you can look outside of your industry next. That would be my next recommendation for you. And then after that, referrals from other attorneys. So this is, maybe there's an attorney in your networking group, but they are a divorce attorney. Okay, well, you don't need a divorce attorney, but they're probably know other attorneys, right? So they probably can tell you, oh yes, I tend to refer clients or tell clients about ABC attorney or this attorney for general counsel, or if you need a trademark, I use this attorney. So they are a good referral source to find someone as well. And then the last thing I have on here is Google. So Google is great if you're looking for someone nearby, which there's pluses and minuses to that. But Google is also great to look and kind of snoop in on people. And by Google, I'm actually saying, do a search on Google to see what you can find near you and in possibly your industry or for the size that you are. But also you've got everything that goes along with that, which is LinkedIn, YouTube, and there's a lot of online directories for attorneys. The one caveat I will say with the online directories for attorneys is that attorneys are often paying to be shown in those directories. So just because they have like a triple star rating on Avvo doesn't mean that they're actually a triple star attorney. It just means that they paid for whatever level they're at, usually, not across the board, but generally. So those are often a good place to find general information if you are looking for information. And some attorneys keep up their profiles pretty well, so you can get a little bit better feel for what practice areas they serve. But I would ask people first. Ask your friends, ask your colleagues, and ask other attorneys that you might know. So I'm going to take a breath there and see if we have any questions about this before we move on to the next slide.
Looks like we're good so far, Janelle.
All right, great. And a lot of you know that. That's pretty straightforward stuff. If you're looking for, an accountant or a CPA, pretty much it's the same. Go through those same steps. See if there's someone local in your industry, and then stretch outside a little bit more if you can't find someone there. So next thing we're going to talk about is the consultation itself. And this is probably going to be the bulk of this webinar, because I feel like this is a very important time. What happens during the consultation is that you and an attorney are sitting down and talking. So our question here is going to be, attorneys are smart, so they will know how to conduct that consultation. True or false? I'll give you guys a second to answer that one.
All right, someone thinks true.
Someone thinks true?
Mm-hmm.
I like that someone. So what I say here is it's both, because of course I can't say false that attorneys are smart. That would be insulting myself. But they know how to conduct the consultation. Some do, some do not. But if you think about it, they are trying to conduct the consultation to learn about you so that they can potentially get work. You are conducting the consultation so that you can learn as much as you can about them to see if they're a good fit for you. So I know this was kind of a trick question, but what I want to get across here is that both of you are coming to the table. Don't think that the attorney has all the answers, because they might have a lot of the answers, but they don't have them all. And really what the consultation really should be about, first and foremost, is, do the two of you connect well? Can you have a good conversation? Do you feel like you're being heard? So I have created for you guys, and you'll get this when Sarah sends out the materials. It is a worksheet of an agenda for a consultation, and I prompt it with different questions for you guys to answer. So in the very beginning of this consultation, I recommend spending a few minutes introducing yourself, your company. And it fascinates me all the time that I mentioned this earlier, all the different types of companies that are out there. You don't think about it. I have a company that I work with that their entire business is cutting hoses into certain lengths and shipping them out. It makes sense, but I had no idea that business existed before I met them. So first thing you want to do is introduce your business and what it is you do, and help them understand, are you distributing? Are you manufacturing? Are you a service-based business? If so, are you delivering a product inside of that service, or are you truly working as a service? So there's a lot of nuances there, and you want them to understand as best you can. So in the very beginning of this conversation, make sure to introduce what it is that you do, and not just, I sell, notebooks. It's no, I sell notebooks to XYZ for this price, and this is kind of what makes us different, so that the attorney can really understand where you're starting from. I'd also let them know how you found them, because that's just a good thing to let someone know. And if they were referred to you by someone, you want to establish that rapport with them right away. So say, hey, so-and-so, told me to contact you. And, as long as so-and-so is a good person, that helps to build rapport right off the bat. So then you want to jump into the portion of the conversation where you're learning a little bit more about them and understanding why you might want to hire them. So I have some questions, and then you'll get these questions, so don't worry about it. But the first question I say is, talk to them about who their clients are and why they work with that sort of client. So for example, I'll tell you in my business, I work with small and medium-sized business owners. I work directly with the business owners like 9.99 times out of 10, because I'm working with companies that are a little bit smaller. They don't necessarily have a CEO, CFO, all the C-suite. And if they do, the business owner is usually serving at least one of those roles. So I'm talking with the business owner. And I work with this level because, I mean, honestly, because I was at this level. So this is the type of company, the size company that I know inside and out. I was there. I owned a company of this size. So I know their questions and concerns. I mean, not specifically, but I understand where they're coming from when they say, hey, I have this issue and this issue. What's most important? What do I deal with first? Or how can I manage this? I not only can help them with the legal side of it, but I can kind of take my legal hat off and my business owner hat on and say, okay, from the legal perspective, A, B, C, D is important, but from the business, why don't you start on B? We'll get that done. And then we can move to C, and then A would be next. And really talk through kind of the priority and the strategy of working on different things. So I love that. I love that strategy piece with them. I love helping them get out of something that they're not quite sure what it is or how to work through it and how they're going to get through it with the budget that they have or the resource constraints that they have. So for me, that's the exciting part. It's, hey, I think I'm going to launch a new product, but I have no idea from the legal perspective what needs to be done. Okay, let's talk it through. We got A, B, C, D. We got them in this order. Now we're ready to move forward, and you want to super speed this, or you want to stretch this out over time because, the budget isn't there or something. So for me, I work with those clients specifically because I find it exciting to help them move forward and help them grow. Bring in a new partner, let a partner go, whatever it might be. So that would be my answer in that situation. But try to find out what drives them, why they're working for the people that they're working for. And try to, I don't want to use the word passion, but figure out what makes them do what they do. Because if it is just a paycheck or just my boss told me to, then you're not going to get that level of consideration and communication that you might be looking for. So the next question I have up here is, ask them about what types of law they practice and what if a situation needs specialized help. There are attorneys with very large egos, God bless them. They're usually very great attorneys in certain areas, but sometimes they think they're good at everything. And I will tell you that no attorney, and I can say this with confidence, and I'm not insulting anybody, not every attorney has an area that they're good at, and every attorney has areas that they don't know a thing about. So talk to them about what they do and see if it's a fit. For example, I work with small businesses, so I work on a lot of the things that come up day to day in small business. So I can help with the general employee matters. I can help with the contracts. I can help with the corporate documents. And then I personally have a lot of experience with the intellectual property. So I help with, deciding if they need a patent, if they need a trademark, a copyright, how that works, and making sure that whatever proprietary information they have stays with them. I will be the first to admit, you do not want me going into a courtroom with you. I don't know the strategy of litigation. I don't do it a lot, and I stay out of that realm. It's not my specialty area. Bankruptcy. Sometimes small businesses have to declare bankruptcy to be able to move on or start over or just close down and walk away and start something new. I am not an expert in that. I have friends of mine that are attorneys that do that. So I would recommend that to you. So kind of get a feel for what you might be looking for. If you're looking for an attorney to help with general matters, if you think you might have some intellectual property that you need protected, ask those questions of the attorney and understand if that's something that they're comfortable and that they commonly work with or in that subject matter, or if it is something sort of outside of the scope of what they do. And they should be straightforward and they should be honest with you about this part. And the third question I have up here is, why should I use you instead of other business attorneys? And what you want to learn here is what they think makes them different. Many attorneys will just say, I'm smarter, I'm better, I'm faster. They should have a reason why. And this kind of goes back to question number one a little bit more, and find out why they do what they do. If they are, a traditional attorney, okay, that might be fine. That might be great. But maybe Maybe you're trying something a little bit different or a little bit creative, a little bit new, and you need someone that's willing to think outside the box. Or you need, maybe your resources are tight and you need someone who is a startup kind of specialist, and some attorneys take equity up front instead of instead of requiring you to pay a fee. So find out why you should use them, or what reasoning they have as to why you should use them over another attorney. And this should help them also explain to you where what am I looking for? Where what you need and what they do connects. So if they can't do that, and if it doesn't connect, you should probably move on and interview the next attorney. So that's the bulk of the conversation you'll have with them. And then I say, at this point in this conversation, and these are all conversations, so they should be easy and flowing, they should have asked you or be asking you about your specific needs, concerns, priorities. They should be asking you a lot of questions. If they are not asking you questions about yourself and letting you answer those questions and asking follow-up questions or clarification questions, then they're not really listening to you. So they're either busy with other stuff, they are recognizing that you're too small of a client for them, which does happen a lot with small business, and that's where I'm coming from. That's a red flag that they're not that interested in working with you. So what you want to do is recognize that. Don't just say, oh, they're smart, or they're an introvert, or I don't even know what else you might tell yourself, but recognize how they're speaking to you. And this is sort of a big picture thing. Look at this as a conversation, as a business partner. And that's how I look at how I come together with my clients. If we're not talking on a level that's like partner to partner, then we might not be a good fit. Because if you think about it, as a business grows and you are starting to form a C-suite, you've got your CEO, your CFO, all of those roles. One is CLO, Chief Legal Officer. So that Chief Legal Officer should be able to communicate easily with the CFO, the CEO, all the different roles. So essentially what I look at is, can I communicate with this person on the other end of the phone as though we're a partner, as though I'm their CLO and they're the CEO of this company? And if we can do that and have a great conversation, and we'll be able to talk strategy and figure things out together, great. It's going to be a great relationship. And if not, if one of us isn't contributing or one of us isn't asking good questions, then it might not be the best fit. So in that situation, if you are feeling that or sensing that, just keep that in mind as you decide who you're going to choose as your next counsel. So I'm going to take a break there and see if we have any questions kind of about how this part of looking for online counsel goes.
Looks like a bit of a quiet group here, Janelle, but I mean, they're responding to your true and false questions, just no one has any questions, which I think is good. So I guess we can continue on.
Okay, great. And that's fine. We don't have to have questions. I just want to make sure that if we do, I'm addressing them. And a lot of this, so you guys know, will happen either on the phone or on Zoom. If you can do it on Zoom, I recommend it. Right now, I know I personally wasn't taking Zoom calls over the summer or for consultations over the summer, just because I have kids home from school and whatnot. But I usually do Zoom calls if clients want them. So I would say if the attorney that you're talking to allows Zoom calls, do that, because you can read so much in facial expressions. You can see if they're paying attention. You can see if they're understanding what you're saying. That's a big part of communication. So just an extra recommendation I'll throw in there. So the last thing we're going to talk about is assessment. And what I mean by this is assessing whether or not this is the right attorney for you to hire for your company. So we have another question. Less experienced attorneys are a better value for my business. They're cheaper. True or false? Now I have everyone worried because of my trick question last time, right? All right, this one isn't a trick, it's false. Mostly false, but not always false. So I guess maybe it is kind of a trick question. So I apologize. Okay, so what my point here is that less experienced attorneys are generally cheaper That's true, than more experienced attorneys. However, less experienced attorneys have to learn a lot more as they are doing work for you. So you want to keep in mind that if the attorney doesn't have a lot of experience, they might move a lot slower. They might have a lot less templates and things to work from. So I have found that the more experienced attorney you get, the more you're paying for them. However, they usually get the work done faster. So I don't want to say that one is better or worse than the other because it really depends on your situation. However, keep that in mind when you're evaluating. And this just goes back to the cheapest is not necessarily the best. It might be. You might get a phenomenally smart, awesome attorney for a very low rate. It happens, absolutely. And in this day and age, it's happening more and more because of all the movement going on. However, just because they're lower priced doesn't mean they will end up costing less over time or being the best value. So think about value. So what I want to talk about here is when you're assessing, okay, we talked about those three things: competence, communication, and cost. And I just realized they all start with C. So that sounds like a new blog post or something right there. But competence, and that's kind of like the value piece. If they are competent, they will often be able to do your work a lot quicker. I know that when I first started out, I wanted to make sure I was very thorough, and I didn't have a lot of knowledge and I didn't have a lot of templates. So I was doing a lot of hours of work for clients that now I can get done in an hour or two. So yes, I charge more now. So that should kind of be in line with how much time it takes, how much the cost is overall, but make sure you're getting an attorney that has competence in the area that you need it in. And I'll just say this one more time. If your attorney is really, really wonderful at, maybe they're in corporate procurement. Okay. Maybe they're a friend of your family. Maybe they're your brother, your sister, your dad or something. Ask them for help, ask them for advice. Yes, but don't rely on them and they will usually tell you this themselves. They have a very specialized set of knowledge for what they do. And small business law is an area in and of itself. And there's a lot of nuances and there's a lot of ways to move through things quickly if you are familiar with this type of client, customer. So think about competence. So if you talk to a couple attorneys, or if you just talk to one, are they competent? Are they going to get the job done for you? Do they know what you need? Do they understand where you are at in your business? I know another thing to consider is in small business, especially, I have clients that are just starting out and they need documents and like contracts, for example, for their client or their customer that are straightforward. They're a page or two. They're very simple and easy to understand. And the business owner themselves is doing the selling, but also telling the customer, hey, this is what this part of this contract means. This is what this means. And part of what I do is make sure that they understand what that means. That's great. And then the company grows and then it gets a bigger customer or a bigger client or a government contract. Okay, totally different world of contract now. Now we're talking about 25, 50-page master service agreements that need to be looked through and whatever. So what you need is an attorney that can help you grow through those stages versus a higher level corporate attorney that works for public companies is going to only know those 50-page document type of contracts. And maybe your person right out of law school can do the middle range type of agreements, but actually getting a 2-page agreement down to a place where it's easy for the business owner to sell and go through the terms with their clients, that's not easy because we have to decide what we're cutting out. We have to make the language very much not legalese, and it's a skill, it's something that has to be figured out. So sometimes you want to make sure that the attorney lines up with where you're at in your phase of growth as well. So think about that when thinking about competence. When thinking about communication, I can't put enough emphasis on this. I would say the #1 rate of success with an attorney depends on communication. The one thing I hear clients of mine complain about most from former attorneys is communication. It's, they didn't call me back. They said they were going to give me something and they didn't. I called and had a question that needed to be answered and they didn't pick up the phone. Okay, we're all busy, we're all working, so not everyone can be there all the time for everyone, but if it takes your attorney a month to call you back, that's, is that going to work for you? Maybe it is. And if it is, fine, go for it. But really think about that communication, that level of communication. If it's just an individual person or if they've got a team that's, there to answer questions. And also just that you and the attorney or the firm that you're working with are speaking the same language. Some people, I talk somewhat fast, so I'm sorry if I'm talking too fast. People that talk very slow, and I have a hard time communicating sometimes. So my clients tend to be people who talk a little faster. And that's fine, because I'm sure there's a great small business attorney out there for people that talk very slow and can communicate better with them. So it's not, I don't take it personally, and I don't think any attorney or any person looking for an attorney should. It really has to do with, how do you communicate? What language do you use? And can you feel comfortable sharing back and forth with this person? Because what's going to happen there is that attorney is going to help you understand what decisions are yours to make. So they will say, all right, for example, a contract, I'm going to write the indemnity and make sure that protects you. You don't have to understand how or why. I'll explain what it means, generally speaking, but that's on me. But you need to tell me what the terms of the engagement are. So are you selling 10 widgets? Are you selling 20? Are you including support? If so, is it, you're going to respond in 14 minutes or you're going to respond in 14 days? So you have to be able to communicate back and forth with your attorney on those business details as well as the legal details. And you'll find that your confidence really grows when you can understand what they're talking with you about. And you want them to give you that information and give you that, I almost want to say that power, because you're going to be able to make such better, faster decisions if you have an attorney that you feel confident working with. And that's huge. And that's really all we want, right? As small business owners, we want to know that the people that we're working with are competent and are helping us and have our back. And when we have questions, they answer them so that we can really grow. And then the last thing, obviously, is cost. I'm not going to leave this off the table because it is important, especially with small business owners. I get it. We're all on a budget, so we're all trying to figure this out. Some attorneys charge by the hour. Some have packages. I know at my firm, we are doing quarterly subscriptions now. So what we do is we include all of the time talking with us because we want that communication piece to happen as much and as often as it needs to. And then we include a certain number of billable hours at a quarterly fee. And I think it's a pretty good rate, but that aside, that's how we're working with most of our clients now. So figure out what works for you and what is going to be best. It might be you just need a half-hour phone call. Okay, quick, easy, done. You just need someone to talk a particular matter through with. Other people have, a pile of contracts sitting on the side of their desk that they just don't want to look at. Okay, send them over to us. We'll take care of them. We have a quarterly thing. We'll do so many a quarter, or whatever, however it works out. So the cost is definitely a piece of it. And you can find attorneys very cheap, like I said before, and then you can find them very expensive as well. So you should be able to have a conversation with the attorney about how much time things will take so that okay, this is going to take this much time. I can afford an attorney that costs this, or that costs this, or that costs this. And what does that mean for my business and my future in my business? And also look at whether or not that attorney is trying to build relationships with their clients. That's what our quarterly subscription program is all about. We really want to build those relationships with clients, and we want to make it easy. We want to make it easy so that when we call, the client wants to answer. And when the client calls, we're answering and making sure we're having enough of a conversation to figure out whatever it is we need to figure out. So it really depends on what your business needs, but keep those three things in mind: the competence, what their areas of expertise are, the communication, and then the cost associated with it. And I'm going to take a break and see if we have any questions from that.
Yep, that one sparked some discussion here, Janelle. So we have a couple questions. So someone, and this might be a bit of a basic one or a broad one to start with, but someone asked, where would I go to even find legal counsel online?
Okay, so that was sort of that first slide that I had up. And I would recommend asking people you know first. So that was, if there's anybody you know in your industry, ask them who they use. If they have no one for you or no one that they would refer to you because they're not happy, ask your colleagues, networking groups, other business owners. Just ask the people that you know, see if anybody knows someone. And then third, if you have any attorney friends or any attorneys in your networking groups or any family members that are attorneys, ask them to see who they might recommend for your subject area. And then after that, I say just Google. Google general counsel in my area or something like that. Of course, I shouldn't leave you guys out. SBDC is a great resource. So definitely call them up. They've got attorneys that they know that they can kind of point you in the right direction, but they also can help with some of the basic questions as well. Not stepping over bounds, am I there, Sarah?
Nope, you're absolutely correct. And actually, we do work with the law students at the Beasley School of Law. Each semester, we take on about 4 or 5 of the law students to run something called a legal clinic. So especially if you're just looking for the basic, well, I can't find an attorney right now that I want long-term, but I at least need to figure out my business license or my LLC. I'm sorry if that's my computer making all that sounds, if you can hear that as well. But anyway, we can definitely help you with that as well. So I encourage you to take a look at our website or register with a consultant. So yes, definitely, Janelle, thank you for sharing what we can do here as well. All right, another question we had was, I've contacted attorneys on LinkedIn and Facebook and they never responded. Should I go back and contact them again after this session?
Well, if we look through what we just talked about with confidence, communication, and cost, I don't know that the communication is going to be there for you. So if they're not responding, then I would recommend going another direction. So again, SBDC is there for you. I would ask people that you know, like, and trust who they use. Most small business owners know other small business owners. So use them as resources. Every small business owner I've ever met is very happy to share information with other small business owners. So ask around. I would say that's the best thing, is ask around.
Yeah, I agree. If they're not communicating with you from the get-go, then, that's not setting you up for a good client experience, right? And you need that, especially with legal, which is something you're unfamiliar with for the most part, So I agree, Janelle. And then this last question, the ubiquitous, how do you know what's cheap versus expensive?
Well, you ask. Attorney, when you're in that consultation call with the attorney, if they don't tell you, if they don't offer the information, just ask how much they charge hourly. And the attorney will answer you. Now, sometimes if you're hiring a firm, like I have a small firm, so I have my rate and then I have the rates of the other attorneys. So if we were working on an hourly basis for you, it would depend on who was working on it. So for example, if we have a paralegal working on it, it might be a few $100s an hour, whereas I'm a few more $100s an hour. But they should be able to tell you that range, tell you, okay, this is how our firm works. Or some will quote you a flat fee price, especially if it's, I see them a lot with startups where they know, okay, you have to form the LLC, you have to do the EIN, you need an operating agreement and maybe a vendor contract. They'll lump all of that into one price and just give you one flat fee. So really ask, because that consultation should be one part figuring out if they can help you, if you like communicating with them, and then what are their rates and how do they work? Like I said, I work differently with most of my clients now. I have a quarterly subscription where we are working for them throughout the quarter on whatever it is, we decided was priority with them in the original strategy call. So I would be open to different conversations with the different ways that some attorneys work nowadays, but they should be upfront and straightforward with you what their pricing is.
And then Janelle, I'm not familiar with this either. Is it common, do you think, for people to get, I guess, quotes per se from multiple attorneys, or do they kind of just find one that is their fit and go with that if the price works?
That's a great question. I have seen, for the most part, people look for the fit and then see if it works. The amount of times I have talked to prospective clients that were also talking to other attorneys is very, very few and far between. And those people are usually in a mindset where they're just looking for the cheapest attorney they can find, which is unfortunate because I totally understand, I don't fault people for, doing what they have to do to get their business started, because that's how they start. But I would say most people anyway that I speak to, or potential clients that I speak to, have come to me through referrals. So through somebody asking somebody else, hey, who do you like? Who do you use? Does this, they already know a lot about me when I end up talking to them because they've asked people about me first. But there are some people that will, and in true negotiation style, you should probably call at least 3 and find out a little bit more about them, about what's available for a business of your size. But that is hard to do as a business owner. I totally understand that. And it takes a while. So I would say most of the people that I talk to, the clients that I end up talking to and bringing on, have heard about me from someone else, or maybe they found me on Google, but then realized, oh, I'm linked in with them, who's linked in with somebody else. So they call to somebody else and have a conversation to see, dig up some research.
Yeah. And someone is asking again, and I feel like I have an idea of what you're going to say, Janelle, and in a typical attorney response, right, is a little yes, a little no, because it's really hard to define. I think you went over this a little bit, but I don't want this attendee to feel like her question wasn't heard. But she's asking, what is a general range for cost efficiency, or what is the minimum a good attorney is per hour? And I feel like that's a very subjective question. Oh, okay. Thanks, Nikki. I just want to make sure we heard you. She said you went over a range, so that's good. Yeah, but I was going to say the minimum for a good attorney, that is really a subjective question, I think. So
it is, and it sort of depends on what area of the country you're in as well. And I'm speaking very generally. So how do I word this? I work in a specific area where, for example, intellectual property law is federal level work. So I have clients across the country, and I tend to have a lot of clients along the East Coast and along the West Coast. And I don't know for sure, maybe it's just because I communicate best with people from the East Coast and West Coast, I don't know. But I do believe that my rates are a lot lower than city attorneys are. However, I do believe that they're probably higher than Midwest attorneys. Generally speaking, it's a little cheaper to live in the Midwest, and so people can charge a little bit less for services there. Generally, very, very, very generally speaking. So I think in any industry or any business, you will see kind of that spread. If you are looking for an attorney that's nearby, like you can go meet with them, you can go to their office. It depends on where you live. If you live in New York City, expect to pay $1,000 an hour, maybe not quite that much, but it's going to be a lot. If you live in Philly, it's going to be less. If you live, in small town, rural USA, it's going to be a lot less. So that's a piece of it. The other piece of it too is there are a lot of attorneys that I've noticed who are trying to specialize in a particular industry or type of law. And I don't mean specialized like what I was talking about before with certain competence areas, but more specializing in a very, very specific niche. So I know that in our area, and I don't know him personally, but I've seen that there is an education attorney who deals very well. Like I think all of his clients are pretty much childcare centers. And so he has this whole thing worked out for childcare centers where he can charge very low rates because basically everything's already done. Now he's an attorney, so I'm sure he's reviewing and making sure that things fit the specific client perfectly, but I think he has a lot of it very, very templated or figured out, or has the paralegals already working on things. So he can charge a lesser rate because he's really, really focused in on that area. I'm seeing that a little bit more in my industry, and I think it's good. I think it's good to see. I mean, this is a very traditional industry that I'm in. I'm trying to change it a little bit by having that quarterly subscription. And other people are trying to do it in a little bit different ways as well. But overall, you're going to see the large city type law firms. They're going to charge a lot. And from what I understand from clients that I work with and have worked with, the downfall there is that they know they have so many different departments of attorneys that, for example, I might look at a lease agreement, let's say for a commercial lease, and I will look at it on your behalf. And, depending on the length of it, it might take me a couple hours to go through it. I'm going to pull out the pieces that I think are important for you to know. I'm going to talk through them with you, and we're going to decide if we need to request changes or not. You're working with me. I'm reading the whole thing. I'm taking a couple hours, and then we're having a conversation. If you asked a larger firm, like a city firm, to do that work for you, they would have their real estate department look at it. That'll probably take some time. They'll have comments. Then they'll send it to their environmental department to make sure there's no environmental issues. They're going to look at it. That's going to take some time. Then they're going to send it to their business and corporate records department. They're going to look at it. That's going to take some. So it's not wrong. It's not bad. If you are, a Fortune 500 company, yes, you need that level of attorney working for you. One thing I talk about on my website and whatnot are fit for purpose deliverables. And what I mean by that is, if you're a small business, you don't need 5 different attorneys looking at one lease agreement for you. A, because you can't afford it, and B, because you don't have enough leverage to probably negotiate a lot of those terms anyway. So fit for purpose is someone like my firm comes in and helps, spends an hour or two looking at it with you, figuring out if there's anything really important to change or not to change, and then working with you on that. So neither method is wrong necessarily. It's just, where are you at and what is right for you in your business right now? Hopefully that answered. I think I might have gone off on a little tangent there.
No, that was great. Thank you so much, Janelle. I think we're coming up on a close of our time here. So I just want to really quickly mention to everyone once again, thank you for joining us. And I did put a link to the survey in the chat. I'm just going to put that one more time here. So for any of you that have been on our sessions before, you know that we do have to have a survey at the end of each session. That's what allows us to keep having them be no cost to you as an attendee. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like. That'll help us shape our programming going forward. And then I'll just let you finish out, Janelle. I see you had a couple more slides here.
Oh, it was just one more slide showing you guys real quickly that you're going to get that interview agenda with the information. So it's just, you'll get that with your materials anyway. And it'll leave a little bit of room for notes, so you can take notes while you're on the call or on the Zoom with your attorney. But feel free to reach out if you have questions. My email's up. You can call or text us anytime. I will say that our text is through a business line, so it does take a little time to come through. So it's not immediate. I don't know why. So if you don't hear from us immediately, that's why. But if you're interested in talking to us more or learning about how we're helping small business owners, feel free to reach out. I do a free 20-minute consultation. So if you have any questions, you can take advantage of that. Everything should be up on the screen. And you guys are the best. I love small business owners. I think, we're the backbone of our economy, and I appreciate what you guys do. So I'm really here to serve you in any way that I can. So thanks so much for coming today.
Thank you so much, Janelle. We got a lot of thank yous in the chat. People really appreciated your time today, as did us at the Temple SBDC. So you will all get Janelle's information in the PowerPoint when it's sent, if you can't remember it right now. And you will also, like I said, get a copy of the recording, and a link to the survey is going to be in the follow-up email as well if you didn't get a chance to do that yet today. So once again, thank you all, and we look forward to seeing some of you soon. Bye, everyone.